Passion-faced Australian Prime Minister who last night delivered the news that Australia's vaccine rollout has gone from bad to worse. Already 3 million doses behind schedule, the decision of health authorities to advise against use of the AstraZeneca vaccine for the under 50s is nothing short of calamitous. General practitioners across Australia have today been inundated with patients cancelling their appointments for AstraZeneca shots. With mass cancellations disrupting GP clinics, some frustrated doctors are threatening to pull out of the troubled national immunisation program. Meanwhile, there are reports of people who had vaccination appointments being turned away at major hubs in Melbourne and Sydney because of legal concerns around any complications that might arise from the AstraZeneca vaccine. It is a shambles. Today, the PM announced that the government has sourced 20 million extra doses of the Pfizer vaccine that should arrive in the fourth quarter of this year. Australians would be right to feel a little nervous about this. Remember the difficulties Australia has already experienced securing vaccines from overseas. Thanks, Italy. And doctors are now predicting that the AstraZeneca decision will further fuel general vaccine hesitancy amongst the public. People not turning up to get their shots, and that will even slow the rollout even further. So, the deadline for all Australians getting the vaccine is no longer October. In fact, the PM is no longer committing to a timetable. There is now simply no way that it will be completed this year. This will have significant consequences on many facets of our daily lives. It will mean our borders will remain closed for much longer. Local industries such as tourism and international education will continue to struggle. The risk of our cities being plunged into sudden lockdowns will again be something we have to live with. So if you thought COVID-19 was going to interrupt 1 year of your life, it now looks like it's more like 2 or possibly more. The government was warned that the heavy reliance on a single vaccine was a risk. The Labor opposition said the government had put too many eggs in one basket. But in political terms, the good news for the Morrison government is that the Australian public understands the size and the complexity of the task, and so far has been forgiving of mistakes. We have effectively eliminated community transmission of the virus, so the truth is we are not as vulnerable as other countries. But people do want to know that there is a roadmap, a timetable back to normality. And sitting here today, with our vaccine program in a shambles, this is something that the good ship Australia sadly does not have. Rita.
Well done, Nick. Like a good Labor man, you never miss an opportunity to play politics. But let's not forget that Nick, along with the rest of the left, have been demanding that governments and individuals hand over control of their liberties and their lives to the experts, to the unelected public health bureaucrats who have run our country and our lives for the last year. Well, this is what you get when you embrace a zero-risk strategy. Paralysis. Everything comes with risk. Every vaccine, drug and treatment has some measure of risk. The government just launched a $1.2 billion stimulus package to get Australians back in the skies, get them flying around the country. Well, what is one of the risks of flying? Blood clots. Should we ground all the planes as well? It's time for leaders in this country and the state premiers to start behaving like leaders and seizing back power from public health officials, or risk Australia remaining a prison island. Also this week, the federal government showed how far it has lost its way and conservative credentials by giving in to activist demands and implementing the recommendations of the Kate Jenkins report. We have supposedly conservative politicians resorting to this nonsense. Have a look.
In relation to looking at what we say, which we would just say naturally, but not understanding what the impact is. And I think the one that really resonates with me, because it is something now I hear, as you have, Prime Minister, given back to me, don't chuck like a girl. That was one of the ones where, growing up, people may have said that, but we now know it has connotations.
For the love of God, saying someone throws like a girl is not misogynistic. Women and men are different. Women are not as physically strong as blokes. Now, most normal people don't believe that in any way makes women inferior. It's just a biological fact. The world record for the men's javelin is 98.48 metres. The world record for women's javelin is 72.28 metres, even though the men use a heavier javelin. Men are faster, they're stronger, they're hairier, they die younger. Noting differences isn't misogyny, Michaelia. Oh, conservatives shouldn't turn into what they have long mocked. If you want to be part of the hysterical PC police looking for a fence where none exists, then join the Greens or the Labor Party. But you don't belong in the Conservative ranks.